All right, so good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jesse, and I am with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. If you're joining us for the first time, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. And I am so excited because we are continuing our epic month of highlighting amazing conservation efforts around the globe. We've had teams talking in Indonesia, in East Africa, in the Arctic, all around the globe. So thank you so much, whether you're live on camera with us or on YouTube, for joining us as we continue to highlight amazing stories. So today we're joined for the first time by Elisa Sandoval, Serés, and she is going to talk about social carnivores. Her work has taken her all across the globe, from Mexico to South Africa, Zimbabwe, and more. And today she's going to share with us a few of the animals that we haven't really covered much here on Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. So I hope you're as excited as I am, and let's get to it. Elisa, thank you so much for joining us today, and take us away.
Hi, hello everyone. Yes, I am Elisa. Thank you, Jesse, for introducing me. So today I'm going to talk about social carnivores, and specifically I'm going to talk about these species like wolves, African wild dogs, and meerkats. And they all share this thing of that they are social and that they do cooperative breeding. So I'll talk more about what this is. So first, what is a social carnivore? Well, social carnivores, first, the word social, it means that they all live together and they live in a family group, and only the dominant pair reproduces. Well, that's what normally the dominant breeding pair, the dominant pair are the ones that are allowed to reproduce. But the all family take care of the pups, so that's why it's cooperative breeding. And carnivore because they eat meat. And here are just some examples. And as I said before, so everyone in the family helps to raise the pups. So, for example, wolves go and vomit what they have hunted and then they go vomit it in the den so that the pups can eat it. And offspring, what they do is that they also they babysit, and then they also go and give food to the pups. So that's a very interesting behavior, because the whole family are together to help it to raise the pups. So one example of social carnivore, can you think of one example? I'll give you several ones. Well, now, so for example, the gray wolves, there are around 38 subspecies, and they are all social carnivores. This is just one example. And I'm going to first talk about the Mexican wolf. The Mexican wolf was extinct in the 70s in the wild, and there were only 7 wolves in 3 different zoos. And thanks to different programs from the USA and Mexico, they were able to reintroduce and bring back these species from almost extinction. And now in the wild, there are around 30 in Mexico, because in the green area of Mexico, that's where they used to be distributed. But now and then they went extinct in the 70s. And now there are 30 in the north. And in the USA, there are 100 in Arizona and New Mexico. And this has been thanks to a lot of people's work to bring these species in and try to recover it and put them in the wild again. And well, I'm also going to talk about wolves in Yellowstone National Park. I think everyone has heard about this project in the USA. I was lucky to participate there just for a month 3 years ago. And this is Yellowstone National Park in the winter time around March. And as you can see, we were there's can you see the wolves? There are 4 here. Well, they went extinct in the 1925, also because people were hunting them. And then in 1995, almost 100 years later, they were reintroduced, and they were and since then the Yellowstone Wolf Project has been studying them to monitor them. And here, you can see my hand next to a wolf footprint, so that you can compare how big the footprint of the wolves are. And these are some prey that the wolves can eat in Yellowstone. So the bison, the elk, the bighorn sheep. And this is like a juvenile female elk that was hunted by the wolves. So also the researchers go and study the carcasses of the wolves. And well, the wolves have these collars that send signals, and the biologist can like receive these signals through these antennas and try to find the wolves. And once we hear the beep, that means that we can like localize where the wolves are, and then we follow that beep, like the direction of where the beep is coming from, and we start walking to try to find the wolves. And once we think that we've found them, we put like the telescope and try to start scanning all the landscape to see if we can actually find the wolves. And for example, in this picture, I don't know if I could ask you, like, can you see the wolves from this picture? And I think everyone would be like, no, I cannot see them. But with a telescope, with a telescope, maybe we are able to find them, right? So our job was to scan literally the whole area and try to find the wolves. So here, I spotted them. It's like, can you see these like little white dots are actually the wolves? So it's a very tricky job because you stay there the whole day trying to find the wolves, and once you find them, you start recording what they are doing. So at that moment, they were sleeping because it was like around midday, and they normally go for a hunt like in the evening or in the early morning. So yes, it's you have to really like field work to be patient enough to try to find the wolves. And here it was like at the early March, so it was very, very cold. I was wearing like 9 different layers of of clothes, because I am from Mexico. I'm not used to like cold weather. Maybe you all are, but I was not used to it. And then this is like at the late of March, so at, when the winter was finishing, and now I was just wearing like 2 layers of clothes. And like other species that can be found in Yellowstone was like the grizzly bear, and this grizzly bear, I think it's eating bison. It's a grizzly bear, and then another one is like the pine marten. And let's go now to Africa. So in Africa, I also participated, 2 years ago. I have never been to Ethiopia, but I collaborated with Claudio and Jorgelina, who run this Ethiopian wolf project. The Ethiopian wolf is a very, very endangered species because it's endemic from Ethiopia. So it means that they are only found in Ethiopia, in this African country, in these little red dots only. So at the top of the mountains only. And what's interesting about this species is different from the gray wolf that I showed before, but this species is also a social carnivore. But the difference is that these species, even though it's a social carnivore and they raise the pups all together as normal wolves do, they prefer to hunt alone because they hunt like this, for example, giant moles, rats, or they normally hunt rodents, and they prefer to hunt alone. And whereas the other social carnivores, like the wolves I talked before, they all hunt together because they hunt larger prey. So they need to be together to be able to, like, for example, the wolves in Yellowstone to kill an elk, they need to be together. Whereas Ethiopian wolves prefer to hunt alone because their prey is like a lot smaller. But they are still social carnivores because they raise the pups together and they live in groups. And then now what I'm doing for my PhD also in the University of Oxford in this research group called Wild Crew, I'm participating with an NGO in Zimbabwe called Painted Dog Conservation, and they study the African wild dog, which is also an endangered species. It's also a social carnivore, and they are like a very, very good hunters. and I'm studying how lions and spotted hyenas affect them, because lions and spotted hyenas are larger carnivores and wild dogs are smaller, and they need to like escape from lions and spotted hyenas, because lions and hyenas can sometimes steal their kills or even kill their pups. So I will look at how wild dogs try to avoid these two carnivores, and how they are being affected by these two carnivores, and yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So luckily, I'll go to Zimbabwe next year. And then 5 years ago now, so I participated for a year. I lived in South Africa, participating and studying meerkats with the Kalahari Meerkat project from Cambridge University. And there we were following meerkats all day long in the desert, in the Kalahari desert. So we were like in South Africa, and this is where the meerkats are distributed in these yellow areas, so at the south of the whole continent of Africa. And we were following meerkats and try to find them and record all what they record their behavior. So we were like recording everything that they were doing during the day, and which other animals we could find in the Kalahari. Well, more rats, gemsbugs, the ground squirrel, springbok, aardvark, bat-eared fox. The interesting thing about bat-eared fox, for example, is like it's a carnivore that the males are the ones who take care of the pups instead of the females. And then aardwolf, which is also another carnivore, and pangolin, which now are like everyone knows pangolins because of COVID, but this is a very endangered mammal, and so yes, we could find them there in the Kalahari. And also some other birds like martial eagles or giant eagle owls, or the curry bustard, which is a big bird. And the hornbill, this yellow-billed hornbill. Also, we could find the Cape cobras and hornbills, which is, this is incorrect. This is a puff adder, and it's a venomous snake. And then leopard tortoise and geckos. And well, going back to the meerkats, well, as I said before, they're cooperative breeders, which means that they live in a family and they all are related except the male, the dominant male, and they all take care of the pups. So normally one would stay with the pups while the other meerkats go eat. And also it's interesting that even the females that didn't breed, so the subordinate females, the helpers, they also lactate. So they also give milk to the pups, even though they were not pregnant. So that's interesting. And another thing interesting about meerkats is that they divide their jobs. So one job would be guarding, which is taking care of the group, while the other members of the group are eating insects and everything. One meerkat is paying attention to see if there are any predators around. So if that meerkat who is guarding sees any predator, that meerkat will make this very high-pitched noise that will alert the other meerkats, and they can run away from the predator. And here are some things that meerkats eat. So lizards or scorpions, or even snakes, like this big snake. But normally they would eat like larvae or millipedes. And one interesting thing is that the adults show or teach the little meerkats how to eat scorpions. So the adults will give the little meerkats like a scorpion, like a dead scorpion without the stink. And then they will give the dead scorpion with the stink, so that the pups can learn how to take out the stink before they eat the whole scorpion. And then they will give an alive scorpion once they have learned how to kill the scorpions. But there are some problems with meerkats, like sometimes they are taken out illegally and to sell them like pets, or sometimes people can bother the animals, like throwing them stones or something, or sometimes there's trash even in the desert, and meerkats can hurt themselves. So pets is a problem because like meerkats can be very dangerous sometimes. Like they look nice and everything, but they bite very hard, and also they smell badly because they have these glands that they rub so that they mark their territory, but that makes like a very bad smell. And yes, and well, the meerkats that have been pens and if you release them, then they are lonely, so they are away from their families, and so that means that they are more vulnerable to any danger because they don't have their family to take care of them. And also, when they were pets, sometimes like the people cut their claws, and that means that they need their claws to find food. So if they were cut their claws and then the claws might not grow back, so then they find it difficult to find food. And also, if they are alone and then they find other meerkats, they might be killed by the other meerkats because the other meerkats that are not their family will attack this lonely meerkat. And they're more vulnerable to diseases and predators like the martial eagle or the cobras, Cape cobras. So that's why it's not nice to have meerkats in jails or like pets or any other animal. So animals are a lot happier in the wild, which is like their home. So that's why it's very important not to bother any animal in the wild. So this is an example with meerkats, but I'm referring to any animal that you can find around your houses. It's important to respect them because they are living beings, right? And also it's important that the trash is not there because, for example, there was this metal thing and that hurted the meerkat. Like here you can see like a little bit of blood because the meerkat got stuck in this can. So that's why trash is not good for wildlife. So no trash in the wild. No one likes to have trash in their houses. So that's the house of the meerkats. It's better without trash. And that's why it's so important to recycle so that we don't generate that much trash. And why it's important to conserve different species. Like, for example, there's this cycle of life. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but every animal and plant is connected. And so if one is lacking, for example, if we don't have insects or millipedes or scorpions or larvae, then if they disappear, then the animals that eat them, like meerkats or the drongos, which is this bird, can also disappear because then they will not have anything to eat anymore. And if they disappear, then the eagles or the martial eagle could disappear as well because then the martial eagle wouldn't have anything to eat, right? Because their prey disappeared. And also, so if the animals disappear, then what will like give food to the soil where the trees grow? Because when the animals die, they put nutrients in the soil that plants take to grow healthier. So that's why it's so important that in the cycle of life, all the members in the wild are there, and that's why it's so important to conserve biodiversity. And what can we do to help? Well, first, a meerkat or any other animal that's in the wild, it should remain in the wild because that's where they belong, that's where their houses are, and that's respect for living beings. So like not bother any bird that you find around your houses, don't bother them because they do suffer, like they do feel if you throw them things that's not nice. And never ever throw trash to the floor because that can hurt the wildlife. And try to recycle every time you can. And now I would like to make this activity. Like imagine you were all biologists. How would you solve the problem of keeping meerkats or any other animal? Like how would you solve the problem of taking wildlife as pets when they are when they belong to the wild? And also, how would you solve the problem of trash in the forests or in the wild? I'd like to ask you those two things, and then before I ask you those things, I want to tell you that we published four colleagues and myself. We published this book that is to raise animal welfare awareness, and it's called Where is Naledi? And you can find it in African Books Collective. It's been translated now to like 10 different languages from South Africa, and it's a story about a meerkat who was a pet, but now it's not. It returned to, and yes, you can find it, but it's also about how meerkats live in the desert. And I don't know. Okay, so to sum up, to conclude, social carnivores help each other as a united family, and they take care of each other. And thank you for conserving the animals, because we all can make a difference from our houses by respecting animals. And thanks for listening. I don't know if you have any doubts, and also I would like you to participate if you can, and tell me how would you solve the problem of wildlife traffic, for example, or taking animals from the wild and selling them illegally. How would you solve that problem? And also, how would you solve the problem of trash? These are the two questions I'd like you to help me, because I'm still struggling to try to find a solution to it.
Together, we're going to save the world. This is very exciting, Elisa. Well, thank you so much for such a really nice talk. Again, your work has taken you all over the world, some really, really cool animal stories and places. So thank you for sharing them all with us. And yeah, let's dive in with questions. So for our classes, if you guys have questions, great. I'd love to hear your queries for Elisa. If you want to chip in with what you would do to help mitigate trash or help save wildlife, prevent them from being in the pet trade, we'd love to hear that as well. For our groups on YouTube, we've got at least a few classes on YouTube, Houston, Ontario, 6 classes live. So several hundred kids are watching this presentation. So welcome in from all over North America. What I'm going to do right now is go to Mr. Shattuck's class. Mr. Shattuck's class has been joining us for so much lately, so always nice to have you guys back. If you guys have a question and or a thought on how to help those issues, go for it.
How long do meerkats live for?
Yeah.
How long?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, in the wild, a lot of them die because of diseases like TB, like tuberculosis, or being eaten by predators. So they can live, they can die at the age of 2 years old or 3 years old. But there are meerkats that can live around 10 years, and those normally become dominant females or dominant males. And yes, there are meerkats that have lived, I don't know what's the longest that they have lived, but around 10 years. Yeah, I would say that's a very old meerkat. Yeah, 50 years, yeah.
The question to kick us off, guys. One of the things coming in on YouTube is stop throwing trash. If you don't litter, the trash doesn't end up there and can't influence anything. So good job, Miss Lou student. I want to go to Miss Mills' class. They're joining us in Ontario. If you guys have a question for Elisa, come on up. Hey, Miss Mills' class.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
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 A lot of stuff. Someone asked how hard they bite.
Yeah. So how hard do they bite, Elisa?
Oh, they bite very hard. They can take blood out of you. Like they can bite very hard. I think even stronger than a cat. Or around a cat, bite, because the meerkats are very small, but because they are carnivores, they can bite and hurt a lot. Yes.
Awesome. All right. Keep those questions coming, guys. We'll do a second round as well. I want to go to Miss J's class, joining us in Burlington, Ontario. I'm heading to Burlington later today. So Miss J's class, if you guys have a question for us, you're in. Just demute your mic and you're good to go. Let's see. Someone does.
Come on up. Okay, we got a question coming.
Woohoo!
Can you die if a meerkat bites me?
Sorry, what?
Meerkat what?
Can you die if a meerkat bites you?
Yeah, so if a meerkat bites you, maybe from infection or whatever, could you die from that, Elisa?
No, I don't think you can die. I don't think there has been any case of like of TB transmission to adults or anything. So no, you would not die. Like it's a carnivore, but it's still a small carnivore. So no, you wouldn't. I don't think you would never be able to die. So
We don't want to test that theory. Hopefully, no one ever has a meerkat bite. Thanks for asking questions. It's nice when we get high schoolers sharing. Let's go to grade 7 at Bristol Road Middle School, Miss McKinnon's class. If you guys have a question, I know you've had some tech issues. So if you can mute your mic, great. And if not, you can always type them to me in the chat. Oh, you can type them to me in the chat. Perfect. So since you guys are having a bit of a issue with that, let's take the question. What was your favorite travel experience while researching different mammals, Elisa? Your favorite experience on the road?
Oh, wow, that's a very hard question, and I get asked that a lot of times. It's very difficult because I really enjoyed all the projects that I participated in. I think I really liked going to Yellowstone National Park because I was very excited to see wolves in the wild for the first time. I know that in Ontario and in Canada, in Canada, like Ontario and other places of the USA, it's you have wolves, but it's very difficult to see them in the wild. And I think Yellowstone National Park is one of those places that it's more probable to see them. And I really enjoyed being there, even though it was just for a month. I enjoyed, watching them. And I think I really enjoyed seeing a hunt because I was able to see a hunt. And I was very excited to see that, yes.
That is exceptional. So few people get a chance to see a hunt. And I mean, it's nice to highlight that Canada and the US both have really incredible wild places.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
So often our students think of places like in East Africa, in the jungle, in Brazil, as wild wildernesses, but we have that in both our countries. So it's really exciting to get to highlight that. So I'm glad that's your answer. Thanks, Elisa.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Miss Gomes' class, I know you guys joined us after a little bit, so we didn't get a chance to test, but if you have a question for Elisa, come on in. Okay, go.
Hi, we don't have a question right now, but
That's
we're
okay.
listening
That's
and
okay.
we're loving it.
Awesome. Well, if you do have a question, type in the chat bar, let me know you have one, and I'll come to you guys right after. So let's go to British Columbia for our group joining in at Shoot Lake Elementary, Miss Parmar's class. You guys have a question for us? Come on up.
Hi.
Hi.
How many meerkats are there in the world?
In the world, how many meerkats in the whole world?
I have no idea, but they are not endangered. They luckily they are all right. I can try to find out, but yeah, I don't know. That's a very good question.
Don't worry about you looking it up. I'll look it up while you're answering some of the other questions, but it is a lot. They're not endangered. They're very,
Yes, they're not endangered. Yeah.
Awesome, guys. All right, I want to take a few questions from YouTube for you. So this is from Miss Lou's class. How big are the Ethiopian wolves, and what do they eat?
What? Sorry? How big? Oh, they are not very big. Maybe they're like a German Shepherd size. Maybe I've never seen one, to be honest, because I did that. But and what was the? Oh, what they eat? They normally eat rodents. So like there's this endemic also. Endemic means that it's only found in that place. So it's called giant mole rat. So they also eat that, which is like what you saw in the picture, which is like a mole that's like this size. So yes, and that's why it's very tricky, right? Because the Ethiopian wolf, which is endangered, is eating another endangered species. So it's important to like conserve the prey and also the carnivore, to conserve the carnivore, right?
We have that thing in Canada with prairie dogs and black-footed ferrets where it was complicated. You're trying to preserve everyone, but one's eating the other. So that's
Yes.
Yes. Before we go back to the live classes, I want to go to Miss Wu's class. They're joining us in Houston. They've been doing so many programs with us this month as well. Are all African dogs the same color? They noticed that the patterns look very similar.
Oh, yes, that's a very good question. So Yes, they are. Some African wolves are like whiter, a little bit whiter, and some are more brown or a little bit more black. But they all have this pattern of different patches of brown, black, white. But yes, they actually, you can distinguish each individual, but by the way the pattern of their color is. So that's very useful for us because then we can actually count how many wild dogs more or less there are.
Yeah. One thing that's kind of neat, when I was in Tanzania, wild dogs are so hard to find that when we saw 4 of them, it actually was like posted in the visitor center. It was like, wow, we saw a wild dog. So they're much rarer than that. They're a really exceptional animal. So it's so
yes,
nice.
they are very, very hard to see as well. And because they are endangered, there are not that many. Right. And so it's very, you were very lucky if you saw them. Yeah.
I pinch myself daily. Mr. Shattuck's class, if you guys want to come back for a question.
Why do people take meerkats as pets, knowing that if they ever let them go, they'll most likely die?
Yeah.
I think you've asked a very good question, and I think that's the problem is that they don't know. So they don't know that normally people that take meerkats as pets. I would say that they don't know that it's harmful for them. And that's why it's so important to communicate science to the local people. And that's why we also published this children's book so that, and it's translated to different languages from the different tribes in South Africa so that they can actually learn that it's important that meerkats are kept in the wild. But that's just one example, like of an animal, which is the meerkat. But actually that problem is not is huge for other species like parrots, for example. Like I'm from Mexico, and like the illegal wildlife trade of parrots, like taking parrots from the forests to sell them as pets, it's like a huge problem because a lot of parrots are very endangered. And people just buy them because it's because they like them, and that's why it's so important that if you're going to have a pet, that you make sure that that pet was bred in captivity and not taken into the wild. And they're like dogs and cats are better to have them as pets. I would say, yeah, a lot better.
One really neat thing here with our classes, we've done a lot of programs on the pet trade and on selfies with animals. So one thing, in our classes, you're unlikely to ever have one of these animals as a pet. But what you can do is if you travel places and there's an opportunity to have like an animal on your shoulder, don't do that. It's typically a not sustainable thing. It's something where they're taking the animals out of the wild for tourists, not something that's good for the animals. So even so far as not sharing those pictures, if you want to share pictures of people interacting with wildlife, make sure it's at an animal sanctuary, something where the animals are well taken care of. A public zoo is a good example, but just having a parrot on your shoulder, a monkey crawling all over you, riding an elephant in certain places, is usually not very good for the animals. So it's something that everyone in our classes can do, either on social media or when they're on vacation. So do keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah.
Ms. Mills' class, you guys have another question for us? Come on back up.
We were more helping you solve your problem that you suggested earlier about people taking meerkats.
Oh, Ms. Mills, sorry, can you come a little closer to in front of the camera? We can't really hear you from the side.
We were thinking more about solving your problem about people taking meerkats as pets.
Cool. What? So you thought of a solution? Can you tell me then?
We were thinking that if they were found to be pets, you could find the people that took them.
Yeah. So could you find the people that take the pets? Is it an illegal industry there? Like, are people punished for having meerkats as pets or not?
Well, I think I am not sure about that answer. But I think that they could be punished if it was illegal. But I think that yes, I am not sure about the politics in South Africa. I think it's not. Sometimes it's not illegal. So if it's not illegal, then you cannot punish the person, right? So it's more. I think that it's more about. Because different countries have different politics on like wildlife in general, that's why to me it's also important about like the consciousness of people. So even if it's legal or illegal, it's about what's the correct thing to do. Yes, but yeah, I don't know if they are punished, but that's like, I don't know about meerkats, but I guess that it's tricky to find a person. It's tricky to find a person. And also, even if you find a person, it's better that to tell them not to do it, because maybe it's not illegal. And yes, so it's more about, it's not only about trying to punish the people who are taking them. It's more, I think it's more about telling people never to buy them, because if you don't buy them, then automatically the people who take them to sell them will disappear, because then there will never be anybody to buy these animals taken from the wild. Jessie, are you there? So I have other questions here. It says, if gray wolves are endangered. Well, gray wolf, it's one species like distributed in the northern hemisphere, and they are not endangered. But the subspecies of gray wolves are some endangered. Like the Mexican wolf is like highly, like very endangered, because as I told you before, they were actually there were none in the wild like 40 years ago. And it's still an endangered species, because it's an endangered subspecies, because there are only 100 in the wild, more or less, and like 300 in captivity. But there's like it's a very small population. So the gray wolf is not endangered, but the subspecies of the gray wolf, like the Mexican gray wolf, is endangered. And that's just one example. There are other subspecies that are endangered. And there's another question that says, have you recently seen any drastic changes in some animals' behavior due to changes in their environment, such as invasive species, deforestation, climate change? That's a very, very good question. There's this branch called behavioral ecology and conservation behavior. And it's a quite new branch of research. And well, I mean, behavior has been like studied like for a while, but like conservation behavior, now it's something relatively new. And it's about how behavioral ecology can help conservation. And one way is to study how animals change their behaviors in different environments, and how they can adapt from the human impact that they face. And one example could be like, for example, so in Mexico, I didn't show you in this presentation, but I also participated in the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. There's a rainforest there called Calakmul, and it's a protected area, and it's one of the biggest rainforests from Mexico. And there's like in this protected area, it's a very nice protected area. If you are ever able to visit Mexico, go to Calakmul, which is in Campeche. It's in the Mayan rainforest, and there you can see, like, for example, spider monkeys. And the spider monkeys there are used to tourists, so they are not scared of humans, because tourists just take pictures of the spider monkeys in the wild, and that's fine. But the same species of spider monkeys, but a different population of spider monkeys that do not live in this protected area, they don't like humans, and they can throw like branches on you or poo on you or like stones on you, because they are very scared of humans, because they are being poached, or where like they don't live in a protected area, so they are not used to tourists. They are used to poachers or to people cutting trees, so like cutting their environment. So that is a very like obvious change of behaviors of the same species living in two different places, one in a protected area and one in one that's not protected. Why do meerkats stand up on their hind legs like that? They do that because then they increase their sightings around to see if there's like any predator, and where they are not standing up like that, then they cannot see very well if there's any predator around. So they do that to find predators and take care of the group. Where did they get the name meerkat? So I think it means more cat, because when I think the Dutch people arrived in South Africa and they first saw a meerkat, they were thinking, is that a cat or a dog? And they were not sure. And then they realized that meerkats looked more like a cat than they looked more like a cat than a dog. And that's why I think that's where the name comes from. I think it means more cat or something, but I might be wrong, but I think that's the origin of the name. And I mean, meerkats are related to cats and dogs, but they are not neither cats nor dogs. They're just carnivores. And another, how many meerkats are in one family? Yeah, that's a good question. So family can be as small as like just 3 or 4 meerkats, but the group can get as big as like 30 meerkats. But normally I would say that the average is like around 8 or 10 meerkats in a group.
Awesome. Eliza,
yes.
take me back. Sorry for that. My computer.
No, that's fine. I've been answering the questions on the chat.
Yeah, you've been great. Thank you so much.
Yes, no, you're welcome.
Entirely killed itself. But yeah, is there a group that hasn't had a question yet that would like to? We've got a few more minutes to go. I don't know who's been typing in the chat exactly, because it's just popping up for me. But if there's a class that hasn't, let me know in the chat now, and I'll come to you guys live. We'll take a few more, and then we'll wrap up from there. But thank you guys for all being good sports and keeping that going while I disappeared there for a minute.
So I have a couple of questions here. Should I answer them or should I wait?
Yeah, you can answer those ones now. Go for that, and
Okay.
then we'll wrap up. And if classes have any more, they can send them to me in an email, and I'll pass them along to you to answer after the fact, okay?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Perfect.
So how close I have been to a meerkat? Yeah, I have called them because when we were studying them in the wild, they were, it's called habituated to the biologists and researchers studying them. So they were not that scared from us because they were used to being studied and followed. And we needed to wake them to see how much they had eaten during the day. And so I've been very close to them. But all, like the meerkats that I've been close to are all in the wild and so free. And what are baby meerkats called? They are called pups. So yes, now Jesse, if you're there, you can ask me other questions or wrap up.
Yeah, well, we'll wrap up. It was right near the end. If classes do have any more, they can share with me again an email, and I'll pass them along to you, Elisa. Thank you so much for such a really
you're welcome.
talk. So much going on. So that was amazing, and keep up the amazing work. It's so nice to get to hear from you about all your adventures.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And your questions were very, very interesting.
Yeah, we had great questions. What we do at the end of every talk, Elisa, I'm going to bring in everyone's group just to say a big thank you. So Mr. Shattuck, our grade 7 Bristol team, and our BC group. And Miss Mills, come on up. Join me and say a big thank you. And bye, Elisa.